For more than 2 decades, they stood silent, 2 imposing granite lions, carved from stone, flanking the entrance to a rust-red building buried deep inside the Arctic Circle. Guardians, sentinels, symbols of a nation's presence at the very edge of the habitable world. Last month, they vanished, not destroyed, not vandalized, removed by Norwegian authorities who understood something the rest of the world is only beginning to grasp. The High North is no longer a frozen museum of scientific cooperation. It is an active front line. The building those lions once guarded was called the Yellow River Station, China's research outpost in the Ny-Ålesund settlement. In May, the Norwegian state-owned company that operates the settlement removed the statues. In June, they went further. The sign that read Yellow River Station was stripped away. The message from Oslo was delivered not through diplomatic cables, but through calculated silence. This is Norwegian territory. The old rules no longer apply. The world's attention has been fixed elsewhere. Greenland dominates the headlines as President Donald Trump repeatedly tries to claim it for the United States. But while that drama plays out in public, another confrontation is crystallizing on Svalbard, an archipelago suspended between mainland Norway and the North Pole, where China and Russia already have an established presence. And the world is not paying nearly enough attention. Svalbard is a place unlike any other on Earth. 3,000 residents, no native population. Women cannot give birth here. It is home to the world's northernmost permanently inhabited town, Longyearbyen, and it is the fastest warming place on the planet. The numbers are brutal, warming at 6 to 7 times the global average. The permafrost is not melting gradually. It is collapsing in real time. 60 gigatons of ice vanished in a single summer. The Arctic is hemorrhaging. But the geography that makes Svalbard vulnerable also makes it invaluable. Its ocean boasts rich fishing grounds and critical seabed minerals. It sits in a prime location for controlling and downloading data from polar orbiting satellites used for science, weather forecasting, and defense. It sits close to Russia's Kola Peninsula, one of the country's most strategically important military regions, where much of its sea-based nuclear arsenal is located. A century-old treaty grants Norway full sovereignty over Svalbard, but it also contains a unique provision, a legal anomaly that has become a geopolitical weapon. It allows people from nearly 50 signatory countries, including China and Russia, to live and work on Svalbard without a visa. For decades, this treaty created something rare, a site of genuine international scientific cooperation. People from across the world, with massive cultural differences, came together to collaborate. That harmony is now eroding. The broader geopolitical context is spilling over onto this territory in ways it never has before. Ivan Vad Petersen, State Secretary in the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, put it bluntly. The slogan that once defined the region was High North, Low Tension. That, he said, is no longer a precise description of realities. Here is what the enemy does not understand. Every time they posture, every time they parade, every time they plant a flag or rename an island, they are not projecting strength. They are handing us a gift. They are taking a selfie while we download their entire hard drive. As we pause here, the lions are gone. The sign is down. And the question hanging over the Arctic is not whether cooperation can survive. It is who will write the rules when the ice is finally gone. When we return, we will take you inside a Russian settlement watched over by a bust of Lenin, where military parades are not a threat, but a harvest. Stay with us. Welcome back. Before the break, we told you about the vanished lions and Norway's calculated move to reassert control over Svalbard. We now take you deeper into this frozen frontier, where a bust of Vladimir Lenin watches over a Russian settlement, and where every aggressive maneuver by Moscow is quietly catalogued, recorded, and filed away. Barentsburg, a mining and research outpost on Svalbard that feels less like Norway and more like a piece of Russia transplanted onto NATO territory. Inhabited almost entirely by Russians, a huge bronze bust of Lenin looms over the settlement, a relic of a vanished empire that now serves as a symbol of Moscow's enduring presence. In 2023, Russia held a military-style parade here, a convoy of trucks, snowmobiles flying Russian flags, a low-flying helicopter. Norway's aviation authority fined Moscow for the stunt. But here is what the parade organizers did not realize. Every radar signature, every communication frequency, every flight pattern was being passively collected. They were not intimidating anyone. They were filling our threat library. Think of it like a Ring doorbell camera on steroids. The enemy walks right up to the lens, rings the bell, and announces their presence. They think they are asserting dominance. In reality, they are registering themselves in the system. Last year, a Russian lawmaker went further, suggesting Svalbard should be renamed the Pomor Islands, invoking the memory of Russian hunters who roamed the archipelago centuries ago. Moscow has also deployed language chillingly similar to what it used to justify its invasion of Ukraine. The argument, Russia must protect Russian speakers on Svalbard. Nikolai Korchinov, Russia's ambassador to Norway, claims Oslo blurs the boundaries of the Svalbard Treaty, which prohibits the islands from being used for warlike purposes. He insists Russia has never questioned Norway's sovereignty. He says Moscow is merely trying to bring clarity. Norway's State Secretary Peterson rejected these accusations with the kind of calm that comes from holding the stronger hand. Svalbard is part of Norway, he stated. Svalbard is part of NATO. Svalbard is part of Norwegian defense plans. And then the key line, Svalbard is not an international zone. Few analysts believe Russia is charting a path toward direct military action. It already has almost everything it wants on the archipelago. Its military remains stretched by the grinding war in Ukraine. Instead, according to Andreas Stegen of the Fridtjof Nansen Institute, Russia is using Svalbard as a stage to show that they will not be pushed back by Norway or by NATO at large. This is the psychology of the playground bully. They make noise. They wave flags. They hope you will flinch. But the grown-ups in the room do not flinch. They do not key the radio. They do not throw the first electronic punch. They simply catalog the room. And then there is China. Unlike Russia, China is not an Arctic power, but it has ambitions. And they are spelled out in a 2018 strategy paper that declared China a near-Arctic state and unveiled plans for a polar Silk Road, an infrastructure and shipping corridor stretching across the top of the world. In 2024, as China celebrated 20 years of its Ny-Ålesund research station, a Chinese travel company brought more than 100 tourists to Svalbard. Some waved flags. One wore a camouflage outfit bearing what appeared to be a Chinese military emblem. The event set off alarm bells in Norway, where concerns about Beijing's true intentions are mounting. A spokesperson for China's embassy in Norway stated that Beijing participates in Arctic affairs in accordance with international law, and that its intentions are to safeguard the common interests of all countries. But the removal of the lions tells a different story. Norway is tightening its grip. Voting rules changed in 2022 to prevent non-Norwegians from voting in Longyearbyen's elections unless they had lived on the mainland for 3 years. The research stations are being reclassified. There is no Chinese research station on Svalbard, Peterson insists. There's a Norwegian research station with Chinese tenants. That's a distinction with a difference. To conclude, the removal of the lions is not an isolated incident. It is a signal. Norway is asserting that Svalbard is not a stage for great power competition. It is sovereign territory. The lions are gone. The tension remains. When we return, we will examine the invisible force accelerating this entire equation faster than any treaty can manage. Stay with us. Welcome back. We have told you about the vanished lions, the Russian settlement watched over by Lenin's bronze gaze, China's polar Silk Road ambitions. We now turn to the invisible force reshaping this entire equation, a force that is melting the very ground beneath everyone's feet and accelerating the race for control faster than any treaty can manage. Climate change. Svalbard is its ground zero. The numbers are not abstract, they are violent. This archipelago is warming at 6 to 7 times the global average. In the summer of 2024, Svalbard shattered all previous ice melt records. 60 gigatons of ice lost in a single season. 1% of its total ice mass. Gone, temperatures spiked 7 degrees Fahrenheit above the historical average. 4 of the past 5 years have each set new records for ice loss. The Arctic is not melting, it is collapsing. Climate change is, in the words of Andreas Stegen, in many ways what is driving a lot of the general interest towards the Arctic. There is a powerful and seductive narrative at play. Melting ice will unlock a treasure chest. Shipping lanes once impassable will become highways for global trade. Vast reserves of oil, gas, and critical seabed minerals will become accessible for the first time in human history. Norway has made clear its ambition to mine a huge stretch of Arctic seabed around Svalbard and beyond for critical minerals. Russia has firmly opposed this plan. We would like to remind the Norwegian side once again that it does not exercise unconditional sovereignty over Svalbard, Russian officials stated in a 2023 briefing. The words are legal. The intent is strategic. But the reality of a melted Arctic is far more complicated than the narrative suggests. For decades, experts have anticipated a flood of ships crossing the Arctic Ocean and a rush for resources beneath its frigid waters. It has not yet happened. The region remains extraordinarily harsh, deeply inhospitable. The costs of operating here are immense. The risks are even greater. Yet whether or not melting ice ultimately delivers on its economic promise doesn't matter, according to Torbjørn Pedersen, a professor at Nord University. What matters is the fear. Countries are gripped by a powerful fear of missing out. That fear is pushing them to establish a presence, plant a flag, and exert political influence before it is too late. They are not responding to opportunity. They are responding to anxiety. This is the paradox at the heart of the new Arctic scramble. The ice is vanishing, but the real contest is not about what lies beneath it. It is about who gets to decide the rules before the ice is gone. The norms and laws established over the last century are being tested as never before. As Stajan warns, countries may soon start thinking that what matters now is power and your ability to assert the power, and not necessarily the norms and laws that we've set up over the last century. Think of the Arctic legal standoff like a tight parking spot between two SUVs. Everyone wants to claim the space. Everyone is watching everyone else's maneuvers. But the person who gets the spot is not the one who honks the loudest. It is the one who arrived first and holds the title deed. Norway holds the deed, and it is making sure everyone knows it. The lions were removed. The sign was taken down. Norway is drawing a line in the melting ice. But as the permafrost thaws and the old certainties dissolve, the question is not whether the Arctic will change. It already has. The question is whether the rule of law will survive the transformation, or whether the top of the world will become just another arena where might makes right. That concludes our special report from the top of the world. The granite lions are gone, removed in silence. The Yellow River Station sign has been stripped away. Norway is drawing a line in the melting ice, reasserting sovereignty over a territory where Russia parades under Lenin's gaze and China advances its polar Silk Road ambitions. The old slogan was high north, low tension. That era is over. The ice is thinning at 6 to 7 times the global average. The enemy takes selfies. We download their hard drives. The question now is whether laws written a century ago can survive the power politics of a warming world. From all of us in the newsroom, good evening.